Chapter 46. Neil Rubin was about as big of a baseball fan as you could find. His columnist job for the Detroit Daily News paid the bills, but it was his secret side job that put the zing in amazing for him. Whereas many old-school journalists kept a bottle in their bottom drawer or hung out with cops and firefighters to feed their flames, Neil wrote a comic strip. No one knew about it except his family, his boss, and a few close friends. Milford, it was called, and it was published in a growing number of papers and online outlets across the country. Its sports-themed content made it fun for Neil. The hero in the strip, Joe Louis, was a three-letter teen. At this point in the season, she had just tossed a perfect game. Strike that. Before the Bengals' opening day, she had thrown a shutout. But Neil quickly changed the narrative before sending his dialogue off to the artist who lived on the other side of Milford. Chapter 47. There's a region in everybody's brain, exactly the size of a baseball, coincidentally, that for most people goes untapped. For now, anyway. It's said that humans use only a fraction of their brain and that the rest lies asleep, deep beneath our conscious awareness, like a mother lode of pure white molten silver waiting to burble up into our understanding. When the barriers burst, the knowledge of what we already know rushes in. Normally it's deep inside, unreachable, except in dreams, fiction, poetry, and dance. When you find the answers, you'll know the questions. You'll live the fictional dance of poetic dreams. Yes, that sounds like a giant circle of thought, but it's really just a mere 9 inches in circumference, the exact size of an official made in Costa Rica baseball. Galligan awoke with a snort and a grunt, like she had been simultaneously choking and laughing. She'd never had that type of dream, one that was narrated. Who dreams like that, she wondered. That's the last time I sip a Belgian triple before bedtime, referring to the Dragon Mead Final Absolution beer she'd picked up from the microbrewery in the nondescript industrial park right along the freeway. Looking at her flip phone, she saw that Farina had texted her, complimenting her photo. It made her smile. She was beginning to sort of like her boss. Chapter 48. There was a different vibe around the city of Detroit for the next several days. Even if you were a 50-something house husband who never really cared about baseball and couldn't tell a bunt from a bunt, cake, that is, you were talking about what happened on opening day. What made it all the more interesting was the fact that Hope was nowhere to be found. None of the investigative reporters for the newspapers or their glitzy, glamoury counterparts on TV could turn up anything about the guy. Hope knew he couldn't stay hidden forever. That wasn't the point. In fact, the whole reason for his coming out party was entirely different. He realized, however, that the more mysterious he appeared at first, the more fun it would be for everyone. Detroit needed mystery and intrigue. For too long, it had been served up a steady diet of decline and devastation. Even when the city was glorified, the poets and musicians sometimes got it wrong, like in the famous lyric about a city boy born and raised in South Detroit, a place that doesn't really exist. Hope wanted to set the record straight. Actually, his real goal was to start the record up again, put the needle at the beginning of the album, or more to the point, hit shuffle, and bring up an entirely new song. Chapter 49. At a simple, hastily arranged news conference in the lobby of the city-county building, a flimsy easel held a giant fake check. The noontime lunchgoers paused for a moment or two, then continued on their way to Slows or Supino. If the lunch cruisers had waited 2 minutes, they would have seen $1 million being added to the city's coffers. As it turned out, they weren't missing anything that wouldn't be repeated. Again, and again, and again. Chapter 50. Sparky caught the event on cable. Only one news channel carried this story. Fortunately, it wasn't the one the TV was already set to. Turning on the television set was an enormous feat with his enormous feet. Changing channels was something else altogether. There were long hours in the day when the dog had to content himself with judge shows or soap operas, but this gave him time to reflect on becoming self-aware. Most of the time, Sparky found out about the sports world because his owner went to bed after watching Sports Enter. Sometimes there would be the old television shows like The Monkees, which, much to Sparky's chagrin, had nothing to do with monkeys. And once in a great while, that other channel would show up, and Sparky learned how to switch the TV off very quickly. That has nothing to do with what dogs wear, he thought, frustrated. Doggy style must mean something else to silly humans. Chapter 51. It was a cold, blustery day, as happens a lot during April in Detroit. Snow flurries or 70-degree temperatures could greet the visiting teams who were lucky enough to face the Bengals during the first month of baseball in any given year or century. By the time Hope was slated to toe the rubber again, his absence from the dugout was an even bigger story than his 27 up, 27 down perfect game. One news outlet claimed Hope was an atheist communist who really rooted for Cleveland. Neil Rubin's news column, the one with words, not pictures, took a decidedly different spin. Nielsen, as his best buddies called him, speculated humorously that really Hope was from another dimension where spheres were all powerful and dogs served as butlers. Anna, the Scandinavian import, clipped out the column and pinned it to the corkboard wall at the inn place. Beer actually spewed out of Marty Westman's nose when he read the part about dogs being manservants. The thought of dogs being intelligent enough to know anything about style struck him as hysterical for some reason. Deciding to play it even more preposterously, Hope thought it would be fun to see how long it would take for people to figure out his next pitching pattern. Instead of striking out every single batter, Hope threw a changeup. The first batter popped a lazy fly ball right back to the mound. The second hitter followed out with the Bengals catcher zeroing in on the ball as it plopped into his mitt. And the third man up flew out with a looping ball to first base. A 1-2-3 inning in more ways than one. The Bengals failed to score a run in the bottom of the first, so both teams were tied going into the second. Speaking of second, thought Hope, and the first batter popped up to the second baseman. The second batter hit a soft liner to third, and the third batter drilled a line drive right to the shortstop. 3 more were out, and those who kept score began to notice something. Thought Willie Palmer, as his fielders came into bat. He didn't actually have a scorebook in his hands, but glancing at the card taped to the wall, he saw a pattern emerging. Sidling up to Hope as the pitcher grabbed a cup of Crock-Aid, he asked, "Left field next?" "You got it, Skipper. Think anyone's noticed yet?" Kurt Martin, or El Martino, the rookie 5th starting pitcher, was bundled up nearby in an officially sanctioned Bengals hoodie. He smiled and gave the pair a thumbs up. Sure enough, after his team got a pair of runners across the dish, Hope took the field and promptly dispatched the next 3 batters with fly balls to left, then center, then right. Look at a scorecard if you're curious. Chapter 52. "Ha!" said the muffled voice of Marty Westman as the ball landed in the right fielder's mitt. "What?" said the little kid, sitting in Marty's lap for a picture. "Blank," said Marty, knowing that he wasn't supposed to say a darn thing. "Mommy, Claus said something to me," said the delighted girl. "Sweetie, Claus can't talk. Can you, Claus?" asked Marcy, her hot Detroit mother. "Blank," responded Marty from behind the peepholes in the giant mascot's eyes. "He did. He laughed, didn't you, Claus?" "Blank," sighed Marty and Claus together. Chapter 53. The thing about pitching, the real art behind it, is deception. For more than a century, it's been about keeping the opposing team guessing. If the batter at the plate knew he was getting a fastball, categorically, absolutely knew a fastball was coming, a professional baseball player would have a good chance of depositing that fastball into the outfield seats. But when you introduce curveballs, sliders, and changeups into the mix, a batter can't be at all certain what he's getting. And that doesn't take into account pitches that are off the plate, balls instead of strikes. Ever since Denton True Cy Young first pitched for the Cleveland Spikers in 1890, some form of deception, legal or otherwise, has been the norm for hurlers, but that trickery has relied on the laws of physics. Gravity and aerodynamics have always come into play. Always. For lousy hitters, gravity sucks and aerodynamics blow. For good hitters, the speed of the pitch can be instantly transferred to the ball as it becomes a souvenir to some lucky fan 400 feet away. The best hitters in baseball have never hit a fastball that came in over 105 miles per hour. And they've certainly never hit a curve at 110.